When Bob Saget performed in what would end up being his last comedy show, he was full of positive energy. The Full House star, who died on Sunday at the age of 65, had performed stand-up in Florida the night before. And as his opening act, comedian Tim Wilkins told Access Hollywood, the TV legend was feeling great and at the top of his game.
Bob was in a great mood because the night before he'd done an hour and 45 minutes for a crowd that was cheering from start to finish, that they just loved him. You know how long a good comedian knows when to get off the stage. And if you've done an hour and 45 minutes, they loved you and you loved being up there with them. And he was in the process of giving back. And the next night he did 2 hours. And that spoke even higher. I was waiting for him to get off, and I looked over at him and he looked to side stage, and I knew he's not coming down. I'm gonna go ahead and make the 2-hour drive home to Orlando from Jacksonville. And he kept going. He broke out his guitar and he did his songs, and they cheered after everyone. He said, and I think he said it in his last tweet, that he felt like he was 26 again. He had a renewed excitement for comedy and for what he was bringing to the stage. He was continuing to evolve as a comedian. He was recrafting into more of even a truth teller. He wanted to go out with a message, and that message was very uniting, and he was adamant about giving people positive vibes. His tour was called I Don't Do Negative, and he was doing positive vibes for people, and he considered himself a fourth responder. As a fourth responder, his job was to give people positive endorphins to go out and do their jobs and their lives better. And he listed all the responders and where he fit in that chain.
Bob had recently spoken on a podcast about having recently had COVID-19, and Tim said that he was nonetheless feeling good and in high spirits at their shows.
He said he felt great from the COVID, and he was wearing a mask on Friday night as a courtesy to people. He said he felt great, he looked great, he was full of energy. At soundcheck, he was full of energy both nights, and he was in great health and great spirits. He had a lot of plans and a lot of things he wanted to do, and a beautiful new wife that he talked about constantly. So he talked about his daughters. He had a lot of life and a lot of things he was still looking forward to doing.
Tim was excited when he got the call to open for Bob, someone he'd long admired and been intrigued by.
He just seems so interesting between the Danny Tanner, America's Dad persona, and the crazy uncle Bob Saget on stage persona. Those are two guys I wanted to see which one of those personalities was real.
And as for which one Bob was?
I think it's both, but I think he's a lot more Danny Tanner. He's just such a wonderful, warm person that you would meet him off stage and he'd still be incredibly funny, but he was so nice and so open.
Tim said that off stage, he and Bob had a 1-hour conversation together, and Bob even had studied up on him before they met.
He gave me props before, which is so rare. He'd watched clips of my show to get familiar with who I am, which was such an honor, and it really touched me. It really hit home that he cared that much about another person, much less the person that was going to be opening for him. And then after each show, he was so complimentary and said, "Great show," or "I really like that." And then the next night, he asked if I was going to do certain things that he'd seen in clips, which proved to me that he'd watched my shows online and really meant a lot.
Tim said that generosity was something everyone in the comedy community and beyond loved about Bob, and it was at the top of their minds after news broke of his passing.
My Facebook, Instagram, Twitter are all full of either direct messages with stories or stories that I'm just loving today. Of everybody he met, he was supportive, he was kind, he was generous, he was universally loved, and he was actually invested. There are people that say, "How you doing?" They don't want a response. He wants to know, and he wants to have a conversation. And all the comedians knew that he meant what he said, and he was really invested in you. So I'm really inspired seeing it. You want to leave that kind of legacy, and he definitely did. I think Bob's impact is that connection, that the true, really great comics have a lot of pain, Bob included, I'll say myself included. We take that and we charge everybody else to watch our therapy. And Bob was one of those people that just let it all out on stage, anything he was thinking, anything he was going through. And that's an inspiration for comics that are holding back, that are afraid to be honest with their crowds. I think that's going to stick with people. That's one of the reasons comedians loved him. There's an honesty about him on and off stage that is endearing to anybody.
Tim then shared the message he was sent to Bob now.
I would say if I could thank Bob, thank him for 40 years of being a genuinely wonderful human being on and off stage, inspiring people like me to live their dreams, and inspiring people at every level to be nice. It was another great lesson in humility and decency to be with someone that good and who truly loved their family, their friends, and loved where he was in his position.